2, 1, go. So right now, since I need to just complete 18 levels of this game, I'm going to start with this one. Right away, I'm going to try and jump across, though it's a very tight jump. So I can instead do this to skip pretty much the entire room. Now I'm going to call in player 2 and use this book puzzle. And by using 2 people, it gives us 2 it goes faster than normal. Now I'm going to do something called box duplication, where I can duplicate the boxes by doing this. So now I don't need to do any of the things that usually give us the boxes under normal gameplay, as I can just duplicate the first one. Now I'm going to do something called tag moving, real quick, just to get onto that plant. I can tag during cutscenes to move during them. And now then I went up to the plant earlier so I can get onto the railing earlier. And now we have a little bit of downtime while I just finish this by using things like double book. Now I'm going to turn on Ice Rink, because that makes transition skips a lot easier. Another thing that makes it easier is turning VSync off, but that causes some issues, which I'll get into much later. And that makes transition skips easier, and transition skips just bring you to the other side of a transition and out of bounds. Now I'm going to skip this whole section by just moving out of bounds. And I messed up the out of bounds movement a little bit, but that's fine. And now you may have noticed I brought Jungle Guide along with me. And that's because I can shoot him on this bow. You can also use things like shovels and swords, but I've noticed that the gun is by far the fastest thing to use. And this is skipping all of the cycles, where you usually need to get onto a boat and ram your boat into his boat over and over again. I've also chosen Jungle Guide specifically for better character management into the next level we're going to play. And this level is going to end pretty soon. When I just punch him. And that's the end of it. End of the first level. Now we're going to play Temple of the Grail, and I'm going to pick Enemy Boxer because of a trick I'm going to get into later. Now, I'm going to grab this key. We're going to skip the thing you usually need the key for, so I can use it later. And now I'm going to do an up warp by switching, and it's going to up warp me to the top of some collision. Now I'm going to go back to Ice Rink because I'm going to do a transition skip. Now this transition skip is very janky, I've noticed. It's much more difficult than a lot of the others. And I messed it up, which is very common, unfortunately. This is a very difficult level overall. Which is why I have it so early in the run. So I just want to get onto the other side of the transition and walk out of bounds, so I can hit the trigger in this door, which will finish the room. Now, instead of doing all of this stuff with the spikes, I can just shoot bazookas at them, and then I can just jump across. I'm also doing these dive jumps, where I like dive and then animation cancel. This is the same speed as just normal walking when you're on flat ground, but when you're on sloped ground, it's actually faster movement. And so I usually do it just everywhere. Now I'm gonna use that key I got over here instead of where I usually get it. Get it right here. And now we have one of our favorite things in any speedrunner just loves to see, and that is RNG. I'm going to throw Boxer, and I need an animation. Some animations work better than others. Each one is random, and I need to swap so I can get launched over the door. Due to the jankiness of this trick, this is why I have the levels so early. And there's another trick like this, though not as inconsistent as this launch. And we're over. Now I need to spell out this guy's name. You can do a launch to get over this door, but in my experience, it's even less consistent than the first one, and it saves almost no time, so I usually don't go for it. Now, instead of doing all the stuff with the puzzles where I walk on these invisible bridges and stuff, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to walk across and do another launch over here. This one's a little bit more consistent, since actual launch-wise, however, you do need a very specific animation. I keep getting the wrong animation, unfortunately. And unfortunately, I did not get enough height to actually make it over the door. And now, I'm approaching the end of the level. Real quick, I'm just going to do double book. And go over here. Get the combination wrong. It's random each time. And I'm going to grab the correct grail, and I'm going to take it over here. Here, put it in to end the level. Now, instead of finishing episode 3, I'm going to go to episode 2 now, as this level also needs enemy Boxer, and you also want to end on episode 3 for reasons I'll explain later. So this is Pankot's Secrets, which is episode 2. And usually I need to do all these puzzles to get the elephants to the end of the room, but luckily with another Boxer launch, you can skip it, which is the last Boxer launch in the run, and however, it's the most consistent Boxer launch, which means it's still not consistent, but it's the best one out of these inconsistent tricks. Now I'm going to swap after I turn the key, which is going to I'm just going to make the key keep turning while I can move without me physically needing to be there to turn it. Also, when I threw it's not really important, but I jumped after I threw when they threw the key at me, so that, just to make it so that it won't ever get onto the ledge, get caught on the ledge. And, okay. Now I'm going to drop out so I can skip that by launching over the gate. Now I'm going to go out of bounds. And skip the whole room. Okay, and now this section is fairly standard. The only real thing I have to point out is that you can drop in player 2 while they're very far off screen, and that'll drop them in where you are. And that's the end of Pancot Secrets. Now we're going to play Battle on the Bridge, which is the last level of episode 2. And right away I'm going to do an up warp all the way to the top of this level. And if you die, also if you die in that waterfall, it will just bring you to the next room. Now I'm going to get inside this bush, because walls have lower collision priority than bushes for some reason, so you can use bushes to just clip yourself out of bounds. Now it's through the wall, skipping the whole room. So now I'm just going to be skipping pretty much the whole room, because I don't need to actually open the gate, because I can just jump over it. There also is another strat where you glitch through a floor. Now this is a boss. It's a really bad boss. I'm going to throw 2 swords at it at once so that we can skip phases. But unfortunately, sometimes the targeting can suck in this game. And that's the end of Battle on the Bridge. Now, I have other characters, which is why I'm going to go to the first level. And unfortunately, I want to end as these 2 characters, so I can start this level as these 2 characters. So I can end that level immediately while not doing any of it. Now, once again, I'm going to skip this level because, of course. by jumping on some invisible collision and missing. But then I'm going to jump into collision and not miss, and jump over here to skip the entire room. Now I need to drop 2 boxes, but I only need 1 boxes because I can just duplicate them. Now I need to just fix this plane. Unfortunately, I have very bad RNG with these guys. They can't shoot me due to the fact that I have an extra, but they can punch me. So... I don't know. Now I'm going to enter Free the Slaves, which in free play is not a good level. But we can deal with it. Now I'm going to shoot the cage that's going to free this slave, which is going to let him turn the lever for me, so I can finish this room. Now I'm going to do another up warp to get onto this platform, and this is why this level really sucks. I'm going to shoot this red guy. You can tell I really have good Indiana Jones knowledge. Like, I know who all these characters are. Or in fact. This is why it sucks. I need to shoot this guy while I'm punching this guy until he gets down to 1 heart. And I almost got it, but I missed it. Every time you fail, you get a whole long cutscene, a long-ish cutscene, telling you that you didn't actually get it. Now he's going to pick up a boulder, and I need to shoot him while he's holding the boulder. However, it does not work on the first try. Except it did. Okay, I don't know what happened. Usually you need to shoot him once for him to drop the boulder, and then you shoot him when he picks up the next boulder, but I guess not that time. Now my characters are all messed up because of that, but it's fine. So I'm just going to fix them here. I'm going to move on to episode 1. Because the next 2 levels in episode 2 are really easy. I'm going to jump over here, which will skip half of the level. I'm going to whip over here. And now I'm going to skip this whole room. Now I'm going to do a trick called Sneaky Becky, where I'm going to skip this snake. Like that. I have to dig up those bars, I guess. For a level that's usually under a minute at best. Now we have City of Danger, which is actually a very interesting level. I'm going to do something called a drop-in warp, where I drop in player 2, but somewhere where he's not supposed to be, so I can skip large parts of the level. I picked up a banana to use later. This room is pretty self-explanatory. Now in this room, I'm going to do an up warp, because we do a lot of those. This is a relatively new up warp. And it's usually not very hard, but I guess it is this time. There we go. Now you can jump across this gap, which does save a little bit of time, but it's ridiculously inconsistent, so we don't do it even in ILs, so we're not going to do it in a full game run. Now I'm going to use that banana to get a key. While a fire alarm goes off near my house, as it does. And I just did that section with some 1P2C. Now I'm just going to jump out of bounds to skip the whole section. You can't use a bazooka on this door, despite the fact that it's silver. Technically, kind of like, because it's actually like a gray door. Now I'm going to enter the second level of Raiders, which is into the mountains. Now I'm going to use tag moving. Something that a lot of people don't realize about tag moving is that you can shoot a bazooka while you're tagging. So it saves a little bit of time to do that. And doing that, I can kill that guy before the cutscene even ends. Then we have a very self-explanatory room. A lot of episode 1 or a lot of Raiders levels are have a lot of small slopes, so it's very good to do. The animation cancels. I just did a skip called Generator 2 skip, where you jump on a little bit of collision. And here I'm going to do a skip very creatively called Gap Jump. And I'm going to jump across the bridge without using the turnstile, and then I finish the level. Now I'm going to enter the first level of the game, which is the Lost Temple. Instead of digging up the bridge and placing it, I'm just going to jump across, because that's something you can do. Something you may have noticed is that girls can jump a lot higher. Anyway, I can skip a lot of these puzzles by just jumping on collision that's around the level. Now, it is possible to skip some of this stuff with the spikes. However, it's very inconsistent. instant for a marathon. Anyway, then I just did an up warp to skip all of that stuff. And for a little while, this section is pretty self-explanatory. Now I'm going to get the idol. And now I'm going to be doing a lot of these animation cancels, because this room is on a cycle, and it's possible to make a very early cycle if you warp player 2 over using the camera and do this movement. Which I got, and I saved the cycle. Each cycle is 7 seconds. Now, just like the waterfall, if I run into the boulder 3 times, I don't need to do this section, and it's much faster than just doing the section normally. This section looks really cool if it goes well, but really not cool if it doesn't go well. You can pretty much warp these boxes over, but sometimes the warping just doesn't work. Like just then. And I don't know why it sometimes doesn't work, but it happens. Then I can fix into the plane and end the level. Now I'm going to enter Pursuing the Ark, which is a kind of interesting skip-heavy level. So I just skipped the whole room, and now I'm going to skip this entire room by just jumping on to that silver thing. Now this level you can skip in a very interesting way, and it's called hitting the transition from the other side of the wall, because the game developers were very smart while making this game and made a very big transition for that room for some reason. Now, using this anvil, I'm going to do something called a box clip. I'm going to clip inside of this wall, and on the other side of it, there is a trigger just to end this room. Which I seem to be having a little bit of difficulty with. And now we have this section. This section is kind of a pseudo auto-scroller. Not very interesting, very self-explanatory. So right now I'm just gonna take a little break of speaking, as there really isn't that much to talk about. Really all there is to talk about is the fact that we are officially halfway done with the run. And this is the end of Pursuing the Ark. Now we have one more level in this run to go. Or in this episode to go, and that is Opening the Ark, which is a very short level. I'm going to skip this entire room by just jumping up to the end of the area. And now I'm going to skip this room by just having the items you need. The whole point of this room is getting a bazooka, and we already have that. Now I'm going to do some tag moving. And yes, I tag move in time with the music. And I can skip going to where Belloc is. Yes, I actually know this character. Hooray. And end the level. And I can skip going all the way where they are because I have the bazooka. Now I'm going to finish off episode 2. Starting off with the Temple of Kali. I'm going to jump up here in order to skip most of that room. I'm going to grab onto this rotating pillar thing. Now I'm going to do an up warp, which is unfortunately not the most consistent trick in the world. And it doesn't save that much time, but I thought, might as well go for it. Okay, I don't understand what's making it this inconsistent, but there we go. Now I'm going to do tag moving so I can make it to the next section a little bit faster. I'm going to use these statues because I'm going to need them to beat the boss coming up. And now I just need to shoot them and they're going to jump into the fire because they're very smart. The end of the Temple of Kali. Now we're entering Escape the Mines, which is commonly considered one of the most boring levels in the run, due to it being mostly an auto-scroller. I just need to fix this, and then I can start an auto-scroller. And I just need to lift up the minecart. And I jumped a little bit too early. And now the minecart has been lifted. And now I just need to hit some of these targets. Now this is the first section, and now we have the second section of more of the exact same thing. There is some RNG here with which side of the track you go on right there. However, it doesn't matter which side you go on in this category. In longer categories like 100% and all artifacts, it does matter. But not here. It might matter by like a fraction of a second. And I got the bad RNG. So now I can get the other artifact. But artifacts don't matter in this category. And that's the end of the entirety of episode 2. Now we just have 4 levels in episode 3 and then we're done. Gonna start off with Castle Rescue. I'm gonna throw that sword. You can't use the Thuggy's sword because it's a different sword. It's a special sword that can break things. As opposed to the swords that can't. Now I'm going to jump over the fire, which you're not supposed to do, but you can do it. Now we're going to use double book. Again, for I'm pretty sure it's the last time in the run. Now I'm just going to skip fighting this boss. Because we don't need to. The only reason why we need to defeat him usually is to get a bazooka, which we already have. And that's the end of Castle Rescue. Now we have Trouble in the Sky, which is another very short level. So I can just jump over the house. Now it's possible to upwarp on that arc that I just rapidly swapped over. It doesn't save any time, but it's something you can do. Now I'm supposed to fix this car, which takes like a solid minute. But I luckily don't actually have to do that, because I can just blow this thing up. You can also blow it up with a bottle, meaning a bazooka is just as strong as the glass bottle. Now instead of using Ice Drink, I'm going to use VSync off. VSync off causes some issues with game mechanics, like jumping. But it also doesn't slide you around, but it also takes more time to do. But it also speeds up load. So there are cons and pros to each method. But in this case, it's better to use VSync off, because we have another transition skip in this level. And now I don't need to do anything to actually do the transition skip with ease, as VSync is still off. Now I'm on the other side of the transition, so I can skip the whole thing. And now I'm going to turn it back on because, as I've already mentioned, it can cause issues with jumping. And now I'm going to clip out of bounds by using a box clip. And then I can ride a horse. Because I always need to ride a horse. Now I just need to defeat these guys. This one's a little bit more auto-scrolly than the previous one, as you still need to wait for these guys, and you can actually shoot some of these soldiers while the car is coming towards you. Once you destroy 3 cars, this guy's gonna come out, and you need to just beat him up. And you need to do this 3 times. And you can get carried away on that car if you want. It's always fun. You do actually want to destroy the cars in a certain order, because they can only like fall away in a certain order, which is this way, and this way. Assuming it wasn't desync, you should be able to get that pretty well. And that's the end of the second to last level. Now we're going to be starting the last level in the run. Which is Motorcycle Escape. I wanted to do this level last because, for whatever reason, after this level, you spawn in the middle of the room, which is further away from all of the other levels. So now I'm going to do a box clip instead of building the motorcycles, which is fine because the motorcycles are already built in the other room. Now I'm just going to ride the motorcycle, and I'm going to get off it, and it's going to warp the other motorcycle to this section. Which is going to allow me to skip opening up the gate. And we're coming up on the home stretch here. Time is going to be in a little bit. I'm going to open up this gate, I guess. I need to get across this, and it is physically possible with a bush, but it's faster to just build. Now, I'm just going to jump over this gate, because you can. Then I'm going to do it again in the last room, and time's going to come up once I hit the end level trigger in the next room. Time. And that's LEGO Indiana Jones Free Play. Overall, that was a very good run. Only about a minute slower than world record. With, like, all of that minute being in the second level of the run. So overall, very good level. Very good run. However, we aren't done yet because I believe we have reached a donation incentive of Star Wars Rush, which is a category where we get all 5 Star Wars characters from a new game or an already existing file. So I guess it's time to do that. I'm going to go to a different file. Luckily for here, there are no transition skips, and we only need 1 extra, that being invincibility. All the others are not needed. And okay. So I'm just gonna start. Time starts when I select my character. In 3, 2, 1, go. And going the wrong way. Good start. So this level starts the same way as the free play run did. And this level has Luke, which is the first character we need. And they're found in this room. I'm going to do the generator 2 skip, just like before. And it's right there. And I saved Luke. Now you don't actually have to save. You can just exit out. The Star Wars characters will save regardless. And now I'm going to enter City of Danger. And this one is at the very end of the level. And I failed to drop in warp, but that's okay. Oh, I forgot about this one. Okay, we do need fast build. But that's the only build, I believe. Oh, there's 1 extra build. But, whatever. It's not that important of a category. This is Star Wars Rush. No big deal. There isn't really a Star Wars file. There's just files for others, and it doesn't other categories. But they don't include the extras you need. So I have to get those right before the run. So I can throw the key over there. Oh, there's 3 builds that I didn't account for. Oh, and a fix. But I don't think this one actually matters that much if you do it as fast as possible. Now I'm going to fail to jump over. And do double book. If you stand far enough away from the vent, sometimes you just don't have to worry about. You get chewy earlier, but it didn't happen that time. I don't know what causes it. Sometimes you just don't need to leave the vent. And this time I failed getting onto the collision of this thing. It's a kind of jank piece of collision to hit. So I'm going to do the up warp and fail, but no big deal. We can just jump up. And in this next room, which is technically the same one as this room, that's where C-3PO is, who is the next character we need. I'm going to completely ignore them. And free 3PO. Now, Princess Leia is in Free the Slaves. Now, since you don't need Thuggy, I don't have Thuggy. So I'm going to free that slave. And then Leia is in the following room. They're down here. And here's Leia. And now we're going to have the last Star Wars character, which is R2-D2 in Desert Ambush. And they're also the quickest to get. They're right here. And that's all 5 of them saved, so now all we need to do is purchase Han Solo for 10,000 studs. Time. Probably should have announced that time was coming up, but whatever. And there we go. That's Han Solo. That is Star Wars percent. Then we can break the shop. And now we're pretty much soft locked, unless we can get to the end of the level, in which case then we can become Han Solo. Here we go. The character who has no face when standing. And that's all I really wanted to share. So, yeah, thanks for having me on. Thank you for everyone for organizing the event. Thanks. I'm just gonna go. See ya.